Will the August 21st, 2013 meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission please come to order? Thank you all for your attendance this evening. For the benefit of those present who may not have participated in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I will review our public hearing procedure, which is as follows. We will read the legal notice for the public hearing portion of this meeting as published in the local newspaper. The applicants will then be invited to come forward and present their case, explaining to the commission and the public what is specifically being requested of the subject property. Written comments from town agencies pertaining to the application will then be read into the record if the commission has received any. The commissioners will then ask their clarifying questions, and then the public will be invited to ask any questions they have about the application. I will then ask those in attendance who support the application to please come forward and make their statement. Then I will ask those in attendance who oppose the application to please come forward and make their statement regarding the application. As this is a public hearing, it will be necessary for those coming forward to ask questions or to speak for or against any application to please identify themselves and state their name and address for the record prior to proceeding. At the conclusion of all statements from the public and the applicant, I will close the public hearing. The applicant and the public are then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, at which time the commission will discuss each application under consideration and try to reach a decision. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decisions of this commission. The applicant and/or any aggrieved party with legal standing will have the right to appeal this decision to Superior Court within the statutory time frame if they so desire. All decisions reached at this meeting will be available to the public the next day by either visiting or calling the Planning and Zoning Office after 9:30 a.m. Seated this evening are the following Guilford Planning and Zoning Commissioners: David Grigsby, Walter Corbiere, I'm Ray Bauer, Tom Cost, Josh Hirschman, Frank DeAndrea. Staff present this evening is George Crowell, the Town Planner, Reggie Reed, the Zoning Enforcement Officer. The videographer this evening is Shannon Gale, and our recording secretary is Donette. Will the secretary please read the legal notice?
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on August 21st, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, Monunketuck Room, 2nd floor, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. Number 1, amend 273-91B 5C2, amendment to the Coastal Area Management Regulations to remove the exemption for docks having landings less than 36 square feet. Number 2, J.J. Sullivan, property located at 229 River Street, map 39, lot 12, zone C4, Coastal Area Management Site Plan revision to allow outside storage of empty propane tanks and other material at a distance in excess of 20 feet from a residential property line, and the parking of propane delivery trucks on site, section 273-97B. Number 3, Town of Guilford Public Schools, property located at 101 Hubbard Road, map 79, lot 9-2B, zone R5. Special permit to allow removal of 2,000-gallon fuel tank and canopy and installation of 10,000-gallon above-ground tank with new canopy within Groundwater Protection District, section 273-92D4. Number 4, Agriculture Society, property located at 111 Lovers Lane, map 40, lot 138, zone R3. Special permit for 2 barns, table 4, line 16, agricultural facility. Number 5, Yale University, property located at 276 Old Quarry Road, map 11, lot 3, zone R5, Coastal Area Management Site Plan for maintenance and rehabilitation of structure within 100 feet of critical coastal resources, section 273-91. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this first day of August 2013, Ray Bauer, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Walter. In case anybody is here for the Town of Guilford Public Schools, this is the property located at 101 Hubbard Road. We've received a request from the applicant to continue that application to October 4th, so that will not be going forward this evening. If you're here for that one, and that's the only reason you're here, you don't need to stay. In addition, the J.J. Sullivan application, this is the property located at 229 River Street. The applicant has requested that that application be continued to September 18th, so that one will not be heard tonight either. If you're here for that one, there's no need to stay. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the Agricultural Society. It's property located at 111 Lovers Lane. This is a special permit for 2 barns, and I'll also bring to the attention of the commission that we've received a request to waive a professionally prepared site plan. But before we get started with that one, George, there's apparently an issue with notice again, or maybe you can brief us on where we stand at, or Reggie?
You recall at the last meeting, the required notice to adjoining property owners,
Right.
Which is required to be mailed by certified mail 14 days prior to the hearing. Was not done. The notice has been mailed for tonight's hearing, however, but the notice was mailed on the 16th of August.
And when should it have been mailed?
It should have been mailed
The day
14,
after the meeting, the last meeting,
it should be the 8th, I guess.
Okay.
which was the 8th.
Well, all right, well, let me start with this. Was the sign put up on the property as far as
I'm
we
told
know?
it was, but I didn't personally observe it.
Okay. But someone can,
There is a sign there now. I
Okay.
don't know when it went up.
yeah, here's the issue. The sign we can't waive, okay? So if the sign was not put up at the right time, the purpose of the sign is to inform not just the adjacent property owners, but the whole town. So it's much broader kind of a situation. We can't waive that. The defective mailing can be waived if everybody who was supposed to receive it is here this evening. There is a court case that says if you show up, you've waived your right to object to mailed notice. So unless everybody's here tonight,
I don't see Bitter Palumbo right off the
Yeah,
top of my head.
so-
I don't see Mari and Brian.
we're setting ourselves up for a real good chance of getting this reversed if this gets appealed to Superior Court. Because while judges don't necessarily like to get involved in the substantive decisions about it, they tend to defer that to the commission unless it's really been a arbitrary, capricious decision. They love to overturn it on process problems. And I think we have one here.
I'm not representing the applicant, but one could argue that the intent of the notification has occurred as a result of the efforts of the applicant to inform the property owners at the time of appearing 2 weeks ago, as well as subsequent interactions with many, if not all, of the relevant neighbors in the meantime. So notwithstanding the fact that the certified mailing was not properly executed, one could argue that the intent of neighborhood notification was accomplished.
As long as,
You want to pay that legal bill?
yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm just worried that we're setting them up to, if someone appeals this for a reversal.
You really think they got all of them? Every last one?
I don't know, I can't speak to that.
What's the downside of it waiting another 2 weeks?
Buildings are already there.
My
I
suggestion,
mean, I'm sorry.
sure,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. I mean, we need to discuss this as a commission, but my suggestion, and I hate to be a pain in the neck about this, but I don't want to set them up with the town up for a slam dunk appeal where we would lose. And without having the necessary notice, without having people here where they would have waived the right to notice, we can't guarantee that everybody's received notice. And if someone were to appeal, this is a pretty easy one to get reversed. I think.
I did hear town council make that same point. I think if you are going to take that, if you are going to proceed on that basis, I think another discussion you should have is the question of waiver of the professionally prepared site plan. And you may recall, we did have a discussion on that subject related to another application at our most recent meeting, or our last meeting. And we do have a situation here where the applicant has similarly requested that professionally prepared site plan requirement be waived. Having spoken to at least one property owner who is interested in this application, they expressed the view that they think that should not occur, that they would like to see a better representation of what is intended through a more qualified application. So I would, perhaps in the interest of informing the applicant of what you're thinking on that subject, you might have a discussion on that subject.
Well, the buildings are already up, right?
They are.
Should be
Okay.
easy to find on the survey.
So it should be fairly easy to, is there an existing site plan that was done at one time here?
There is a site plan that was done in 1989 pursuant to an application for a special permit that was made then.
Okay.
That could be fairly easily updated
Yeah.
to include both the buildings the proposed buildings and any other changes in the site that have occurred since then.
Well, I mean, given that there's, again, we would have to probably rule on that when we had the application before us and had the full hearings, so we know what's being requested and how
Is
easy
a
it is.
site
but-
visit in order before that meeting?
I don't know. I mean, is the feeling of the commission, I mean, it's already up. I think as long as we get, an accurate representation of where that is on the site plan, we're probably okay.
We do have the right, though, to waive.
We do.
We have that right to waive professionally.
Yes, we do have.
We do,
So
but
what makes this different than the other ones that we waived?
nothing except that we haven't got into the substance of the application yet to make a determination whether it should be waived or not. And if the applicant's going to come back and, I mean, I think all we can do is make a suggestion based on the fact that there's neighborhood involvement, that it may pay to have a site plan that accurately represents what's being asked here to be presented. But again, that's not something, if the applicant wants to request a waiver of that, we'll take that up and determine impartially at the hearing whether that's appropriate. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, I don't know without going through the application. Any comments, David, or Walter?
I'm generally more disposed towards waiving a site plan when it's a small building of some kind, like a shed, as opposed to these are borderline 5,000 square foot structures. I don't mind knowing exactly how close they are to property lines. I don't know, based off of the aerial photograph, it doesn't really show me what the setbacks are from, is it a side property line or a rear property line? I don't quite know how that works with that property. If we had a site plan, I wouldn't have any questions, or at least I'd know the answers to my questions. Right now, I'm just looking at an aerial photograph.
Can,
Anybody else wish to weigh in on that? I mean, I just don't know, okay, without,
Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
I
maybe
think-
the,
I think,
is it appropriate?
my only thought is if they,
Sure.
if we have the first issue, but on the second issue, if we said they had to come back in 2 more weeks, is it reasonable to assume that they could get someone to do a site plan in 2 weeks?
well, they already have a site plan. I think it would need to be updated, is what the question is.
Is it appropriate to hear from the applicant?
Sure.
About the site plan?
Sure, I think so. Try to make a reasonable decision. Sure, maybe you can give us some information on the site plan and
Certainly.
why it hasn't happened.
Barb Hammerlin, Assistant Secretary for the Guilford Agricultural Society. Ray, if I might, I would also like to address the mailing.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Being that we're 100% totally volunteer and have no paid members, we do the best that we can to get everything done in a timely fashion. When some people are on vacation and that, it rolls into our time. So unfortunately, last Friday was the first time that I could get the postage to get the mailings out. I do have cards here of who has responded so far. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it in, but I do have a signed sheet from the neighbors who had received the first letter from us as well. I do have that if I need it. I could run out and get it. But I know that all the neighbors, including Rollwood, because Lou Weedy had spoke to me that he had spoke to them, they all are very well aware that many have visited the site and that, and so it's not like they haven't seen. And the sign was put up the day
Okay.
after the last meeting, because I got it from Reggie as asked for the
Yep.
signs.
So between these cards and the other list that you have, which is signatures,
The signatures that they had received the
does
first.
that add up to every single abutting property?
I'd have to go through and count it, to be honest with you. I sent 31 certifieds out at a total of $189. Okay. We're not trying to pull anything
No, I'm just more worried about
It's a very technical.
if this got appealed, this being a real easy way to get the decision
So,
overturned.
so, let me just ask this question. What if it was appealed?
You don't have jurisdiction to hear it. We wouldn't have properly had the authority to hear the application.
So they'd have to come back in and get another application?
just have to do it
We'd have to do it
All over again, after going to court, assuming nobody fought. Well, let me just ask you this, is there any way that you can show between the cards that you have here for this application and the people that signed off on it, that you can show to us that you have actually given notice to everybody?
If you want to give me a few
Okay.
minutes, I could try and.
Why don't we do that? And what we'll do is we'll go on to the next application, then we'll pick you up after you've had an opportunity to look that over and see if you can show that to us.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Next,
Signatures will be
signature,
adequate.
yes, that would be adequate if someone signed to say they had the notice for this hearing. I would accept that.
They sent out, they did send out service at the very beginning.
Right.
And so that's where you got signatures.
Okay.
And they did the signature.
The next item is Yale University. This is property located at 276 Old Quarry Road. This is a CAM site plan for the maintenance and rehabilitation of a structure within 100 feet of the critical coastal resource.
Is it mailing? Thank you. Send on. What's that? Right, wait, let's do this.
My name is Azure B. Sleicher. I'm with Ocean and Coastal Consultants, and I'm the professional engineering consultant representing Yale University on this application and the engineer of record for the proposed repairs to waterfront structures that sustained damages from Storm Irene back in 2011, and then further damages from Sandy this past October 2012. And with me is Mr. J.P. Fernandez, who is with Yale University. So I'll just walk through the repairs, and I'll start off by saying that these repairs are all in-kind, in-place repairs of existing waterfront structures that have been there for a really long time. All of the repairs fall within the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers and the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection, and we received all the necessary permits from both of those agencies. So from north to south, the property line is here. This is a residential site that is owned by Yale University. The existing dwelling on site is rented out as a residential unit. The waterfront components consisting of boat ramp, seawall, and pier are utilized by Yale University for research efforts, launching the vessels and so forth. So from north to south, we have an existing concrete and stone boat ramp, stone and mason, stone seawall, stone and granite stone blocks, an existing steel and timber pier that sits on ledge rock, followed by more stone masonry seawalls. And then further south, additional seawall, there's ledge rock outcrops, more seawall, and then this little peninsula here that's seawall stone with a concrete slab on top. So as I mentioned, all of these structures sustained damage during Irene, blowouts of the stone wall, pier, timber decking was ripped off, the steel framing was mangled, and just general damages everywhere. And again, we're proposing to repair everything to be kind in place. Repairs to the stone seawalls include chinking, repointing. The boat ramp will be demoed, a new concrete slab boat ramp will be in its place. Because these structures are old and probably had not been originally engineered, we are proposing improvements to them consisting of drainage improvements on the backside of the wall. Portions of the wall that are dry stacked stone demonstrate that there's been a loss of fine material from the land side of the wall. There's sinkholes throughout the upland portion of the property. So areas behind the wall will be excavated, geotextile filter fabric will be installed, trap stone will be installed as a filter layer to prevent future migration of fine materials from the unwatered face. And the areas of seawall that are currently or historically have been watered will be reset with basically rebuilding in kind in place the stone and water seawall. And at the south end where there is the concrete peninsula, a new slab will be placed on top. And that's really all.
All right, before we get to questions, we have a couple letters. The first one dated July 9th is from John Goucher, who is with the Office of Long Island Sound Programs for the state of Connecticut. We have reviewed the above reference proposal to repair and replace damaged seawalls, piers, and a boat launch for consistency with Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies and have no comments from the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. In addition, we have a letter dated August 15th from Kevin McGee, who's the town environmental planner. This application is for the reconstruction of a boat ramp, seawall, and timbered pier damaged during Storm Irene. The work is shown to be constructed adjacent to a rocky shorefront and in a FEMA flood zone. This work may have potential to cause siltation to the waters of Long Island Sound. The applicant has received a certificate of permission from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and approval from the Army Corps of Engineers, which are attached to the application. The conditions of approval included in the Connecticut DEEP permit provide appropriate steps to mitigate any adverse impacts on the coastal resources. So that's all well and good. Questions from the commission? Are there any questions from the public? Is there any? Sure, do you have a question? Excuse me, could you just please identify yourself, name and address?
Rebecca Clayton, and I'm 72 Old Warrior Road. I just wonder if it's going to still be a dock used by the Marine Biology Club, Yale?
Yes.
And it will will go out further than it is, or
No.
will be the same?
No, it'll be the same footprint and currently, which is it's just a fixed timber and steel pier. There's no gangway or floating dock component, and it will remain that way.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
If it's staying the same, what are the other, what are the improvements other than engineering the concrete slab so that it's...
Well, we've engineered the pier as
Engineered the
well.
pier.
I mean, we look at wave and environmental loads on the pier and design the steel framing appropriately, whereas due to the age of the structure probably hadn't been originally.
The originals, the structure that was damaged in Irene and Sandy has been there since the 20s,
I don't know exactly, but
maybe.
it was eligible to be grandfathered under the Connecticut DEP statute, so it was at least old enough to satisfy them.
Okay,
Was
all
our
right,
summer.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone in the public? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody wishing to speak against the application? Okay, one more opportunity for questions or comments. Hearing none, I'll close this public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't we do the amendment to Section 273-91B5C2, and then we'll go back to the Agricultural Society. George, I guess you're going to present on this one?
Yes, this is a recommendation of the zoning committee. You'll recall that when we redrafted several years ago the coastal area management regulations, we created a provision for requiring coastal area management applications for the landward structures associated with docks, including landings. And at that time, we thought that small landings, less than 36 square feet, were insignificant in terms of their potential impact, and therefore could be and should be exempt from the coastal area management site plan requirements. Upon having some experience with small landings associated with dock facilities over the last several years, I believe it was Kevin's recommendation primarily that that exemption be eliminated. That was discussed with the zoning committee, and the zoning committee agreed, and that's the recommendation for the commission.
Okay. We have received a letter from John Goucher, Connecticut Office of Long Island Programs, regarding this application. We reviewed the above referenced proposal to amend the Guilford zoning regulations for consistency with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies and have no comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. Questions from the commission?
Well, I think just a point of clarification, these are two different proposals here. One is to simply delete the notion of the docks, the landings landward of the mean high tide line entirely, or the other option presumably would be to leave the language in there, but to clarify that those landings are meant to be at grade. My personal opinion is that it makes more sense just to delete the entire exemption combination of, it was intended to be an accommodation as opposed to a very large loophole. And then we have the added conflict between the DEP saying they want docks high so that people can either walk or float under them, as opposed to our general perception is that we'd rather have them low so that they are not visually as obvious. So I personally think it makes more sense just to take out the exemption entirely.
Yes.
Any
That's what this
other
No, that's what that
questions
is.
from the commission on this? Or any questions from the public concerning this? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor? Is there anybody wishing to speak against it? Any other questions? We'll get to the discussion of it, but just for now, any questions? Okay, then what we'll do is we'll close the public hearing on this matter, and we'll take it up as part of the discussion when we go to vote on it. Okay, while we're at it, before we go to the Agricultural Society, if I could just get a motion on the Town of Guilford Public Schools application, property located at 101 Hubbard Road, to continue that to October 4th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And on the J.J. Sullivan application, property located at 229 River Street, if we could continue that to September 18th.
Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I would like to enter 5 aerial photographs, historical aerial photographs into the record for the zoning enforcement officer's consideration before we continue. Is that appropriate?
Sure, go ahead.
I have here 5 photographs from certain time frames in the history of the J.J. Sullivan lot. I have starting from 1951, the lot already functioning as a business.
Well, we don't want to get into the substance of it at this point, since we have it open, but if you have information that you want to get into the record.
Yes,
the
I'm
applicant.
sorry. I have concerns about 2 structures that may not be grandfathered under 813A. There are 2 tanks that were not present in September of 2010. There were structures there previously that had never been approved by the commission, and there were structures there afterward. I believe there are 2 tanks. Their GPS coordinates are 41 degrees north, 41 degrees, 17 minutes, 9.8 seconds north, and 72 degrees, 41 minutes, 11.88 seconds west, as well as 41 degrees, 17 minutes, 9.68 seconds north, and 72 degrees, 41 minutes, 11.85 seconds west. They are two tanks that I believe when we were discussing earlier, we did not notice that they have been constructed more recently than August of 2010. Thank you.
Okay, put those in the record. Request to continue it to 9/18. Do I hear
So moved.
a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we'll go back to the Agricultural Society application and see if we had everybody appropriately noticed.
Missing 6 signatures. One being Mike McBride, him and I, we had a discussion on the phone, and he had contacted the state and forwarded them a copy of the letter, and he had told me that they had no objections to any of it. The other is Clarence Demone. He did, I've seen him driving around, but obviously he didn't. And Diane Shadowski, I don't have a card from her, who lives on Lover's Lane as well. And there are 2
Okay.
but I do have the list of them. My only other question was, what if they never pick them up?
If they never, what?
If they never pick the letters up?
Your obligation to mail.
Certified.
It's just to mail it, and if it's been mailed, that's where your obligation ends. So,
Well, I mean,
but if, as I said, if you have signatures or you mailed it to everybody, I think we'd be okay, but it doesn't sound like we...
well, would the certified receipts count as being the proof that they were mailed?
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, is if you mailed it to everybody.
There should be the certified receipts in the file there.
But the time for that,
Right.
that's the problem.
Right.
The 2-week time frame.
Well, it was the second time when they were mailed. And like I said, unfortunately,
You're testifying that you're speaking to the fact that you did mail to them first time around. It wasn't a certified mailing.
that was not
But-
certified.
but you-
No, I'm
to the best of
not,
your
I'm not
knowledge-
disagreeing with that,
Right.
but I'm saying,
To the best of your knowledge, you did mail them notice of the hearing 2 weeks ago, or more than 2 weeks ago, actually.
exactly.
But it
And
wasn't
then-
certified mailing.
Right, and then we did the certified mailing as we could get it done.
Right.
And the sign was up as it was requested. So that's,
Well, I think notice it's a...
It's,
I mean, I just want,
it's a technicality, but it's a technicality that gets you booted out of court.
I mean, you're
so
asking
fast.
us to spend another $889 for mailing. Is
I
what
mean,
we feel.
No, you already
No.
mailed.
No, you've already
No,
spent
you've
it.
already done the mailing.
The mailing's
Done it.
done.
It's,
Okay, so you don't
it'll
have to do it
be,
again.
All that needs to occur is for us to move it out. So if you've mailed it to everybody, but you mailed it a few days late, that'll be fine if we move this hearing out. You won't have to remail it to everybody because they've been noticed. The problem is they weren't noticed early enough.
When is your next meeting? That's the next
The
question.
94 meeting was closed unless you want to put it on there.
Because
Otherwise,
obviously you
9/18.
understand our time constraints at
Right.
this point.
What else do we have on there besides table
We have
5?
Sullivan, North,
Well, Sullivan's going to the 18th.
No, the
The other
TS2
Sullivan. The other
change, the
Sullivan.
one, that different Sullivan.
Okay.
That one and table 5.
I mean, since this is already up, would it be a problem to move this to the 18th?
That's the week of fair.
Okay.
Yes, it definitely would be a major problem.
can we move table 5 or is
No,
there a
no,
lot?
I don't want to move that one. And we've already committed to the other, I mean, I guess we'll just have to take it up on the 5th, along with everything else. 4th, along with everything else.
Do a long meeting.
So,
Do you want to do the site plan so at least we've got that other drafts as well?
well, I mean, we can take a look at it now. The problem is, until we get to the real substance of the application, which we can't get to until we open the meeting, all I can do is make a suggestion that if it's possible to get that brought up to date, if you have a,
Well, That's basically what we've done.
Okay,
Anything that's in the highlighted blue has been eliminated. What's in the red is the newest, the latest revised.
and that is the actual location, the actual size, that's all to
Yes.
scale?
Yes.
Okay.
Distances from property lines is important to know.
That is a A2 survey that does have the property lines, it also has the wetlands boundaries,
Yes, it does.
and it's a scale drawing, so.
You just have to bring a ruler with us.
Okay. Then-
This one is actually the right scale. This one is
It's like this.
1 inch equals 40 feet.
So if you have the property lines, you have the wetlands lines, and those are accurately located to scale on where the buildings are, I think I'm okay with it.
We have three abutting property owners that we haven't met the notice requirement for.
No, they were noticed on the 16th.
They were just not,
Yeah, I mean,
everybody was
everybody
noticed.
else has actually signed off or,
Apparently.
yeah, without those three, that would be appropriate.
It's still a judgment call.
So,
I mean, let me just, so I'm clear, the certified mail notice did go out to all abutting property owners,
Yes.
just,
On the 16th.
it was late going out.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody who needed to get notice mailed to them, got it mailed to them, it was
Yeah.
just late.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I think that can be cured by moving the hearing out.
I was just wondering if she could pull the last three people out of their homes right now to have them show up at this meeting and say their address.
Well, one of them is Mr. McBride, he's the actual
Well-
employee, he doesn't live there, does he?
Part of the problem is if they need to have the time to prepare it, you know, their case if they want to make one. So that's part of the reason why we do this. All right, so-
Unfortunately, I agree.
Why don't we get a motion then?
Motion to continue to the September 4th meeting.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? I mean, I think trying to be as prudent as we can and fair to everybody, and also not set you guys up for a slam dunk feel that you're going to lose. This is the best way to do it. It's 2 weeks, the buildings are already up, so I don't think it's going to be that much of an impact. And I hear what you're saying about moving it out further with the fair that week, so
Well, we start setting up for the fair the first week of September, so.
it's going to be a challenge. All right, why don't we get a vote on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so we'll take this up on the 5th. I'm sorry, I keep saying the 5th. Or 4th. Okay, continue that. All right, can I get an approval of the revised agenda? Motion for that, please.
Move to approve the revised agenda.
Do I hear a...
Second.
All right, all in favor? Okay, first item to consider is the Yale University matter. If I can get a motion on that, please.
I've got it.
Voted, the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approved a coastal site plan application for Yale University at 276 Quarry Road, Old Quarry Road, map 11, lot 3 for maintenance and rehabilitation of a structure within 100 feet of a critical coastal resource as shown on the application dated June 11, 2013. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Really, it looks to me like a lot of the stuff that was there predated zoning, predated the CAM regulations, and it's essentially just bringing it up to speed, repairing damage, and making it more bulletproof for our next hurricane. So, well-engineered, well laid out. I don't think they're expanding anything, so I'm in favor of granting the motion. Any other discussion?
Am I interpreting Kevin's letter correctly that the DEP conditions are incorporated in the DEP permit, therefore we don't need to worry about incorporating?
That's what he said.
And any permits the Army Corps of Engineers gave them as well will be incorporated since the construction. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good, that's passed. Okay, next item is the amendment to the zoning code. If I could get a motion on that, please.
Proposed motion, zoning amendment 173, 91, B5, 9C02. voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve an amendment to the zoning code as follows. Amend 27391B5C2. Amendment to the coastal area management regulations to remove the exemption for docks having landing less than 36 square feet. This amendment is approved based upon a finding that it conforms to the plan of conservation and development. The amendment was effective August 30, 2013.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay, discussion.
Does that meet what your concern was about deleting it, right?
I think that's
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
motion is, is simply to delete it. I think
It
it's
is.
much cleaner. I think it's
Not
much
not put
less.
that substitute language in there, right. I
I-
thought that's what the
I-
zoning committee agreed to, more or less, pretty much.
Old Quarry was, the Old Quarry Association is the immediate neighbor, and they were notified on this, and they were totally cool.
Yeah, I honestly, never understood why we drew the, 3 foot by 3 foot is,
That was,
Okay.
I remember David North telling us
Yeah.
that was what we
I
should do.
mean, I think I know what the intent was to try to not nickel and dime,
Right, it
people.
was a
would get
little
their
bit of horse trading with David North when he said, look, what if some guy just wants to put a little tiny thing, and then it grew from 20-something to 36 by the time I leave it through the commission, and then the next thing I know, people are...
So this isn't the language right here, right?
No, it's deleting
It's the
it.
deleted language above that we're getting rid of.
All right.
Just deleting it off, that number 2 altogether.
Now, there was no input from the public. Like I said, I don't really understand. It probably was worth trading, but for whatever it was, I think it makes sense to remove it so that we have the opportunity to look at all these things when they come in. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. We will move along to the site plans. First item is Sweet Frog Frozen Yogurt, property located 891 Boston Post Road. This is the old Starbucks. Site plan revision to allow a change in use from retail sales to a restaurant for frozen yogurt. Receive and take action. If I could just get a motion to receive.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay.
State my name, is that correct?
Yes, please.
David Edwards, 326 Doug Road, South Roxbury, Connecticut. We are looking to change the use from a previous food store to a restaurant.
Yeah, now you were here before, right, and that deal fell through?
Didn't pan out the way we thought it would.
Okay.
Jewelry shop.
Correct.
No, that's where they were.
That's where they were, but now you're
This was
starting
a
to run one.
restaurant before it was a jewelry store.
It was not, yes.
Starbucks. It used to be Starbucks. Before we get to the questioning here, we got a letter from Dennis Johnson, Director of Health, dated August 20th regarding the application. The applicant's proposed change in use to a self-service food establishment is compatible with the septic system capacity currently existing on the site. It is recommended that the applicant's proposed use be permitted. And that's all that we've received. So, any questions for the applicant? I mean, it was a Starbucks at one time, and it did have the septic capacity for
We've
that.
had a pretty, I think the septic capacity was pressing the envelope for things. I mean, for the most part, you're disposable, you're not doing a lot of dishwashing.
No, I believe what happened was, the way it was explained to me is that they were pouring a lot of things down into the septic, and that when they quoted how much water they were going to use, they underquoted, and I believe the Starbucks that underquoted it. We're about 7,000 gallons a month that we'll use, and I believe the septic is about 14,000 gallons that it's been designed for.
All right. Any other questions?
There's some ambiguity Reggie and I had in talking, I guess Reggie talking to the architect about how many outside tables you were actually proposing. I think Reggie felt that the Starbucks had 5 tables and that was really about as many as you could get out there. So we recommended that as a condition of approval, that there be 5, not to exceed 5
Is that a problem
tables.
for you, or?
I just did want to ask if, I do agree with the 5 tables, that's fine. But underneath the awning, there's room for 2 4-foot benches. And I know Starbucks didn't have that, but that's on the site plan.
It's on the plan, right? It is on the plan, yeah.
So we would, if we
That would be-
approve it, that'd be
yeah,
approved
right.
along with it.
And
you don't have a problem with
an objection
benches.
to the
Okay.
benches. Just as long as they aren't blocking the handicap access way, not from the front, but from the side, there's a handicap access. and the plan that was submitted shows tables right in front of it.
Would that be a problem for
No,
you to
well,
relocate?
yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. So maybe we'll just add that as a condition that the benches on the site plan shall not obstruct the handicapped entrance.
Either handicap.
Either handicapped entrance. All right, any other concerns or discussion before we get a motion?
Why is this an expansion of the use that was approved for Starbucks? Are we renewing something that expired?
Technically, I mean, if it had gone from Starbucks to this, then they wouldn't have to
It
be
wouldn't
here.
even be here, yeah.
They
this
went
is-
from Starbucks to retail
Retail,
store.
and now they're going back
back
to-
to restaurants.
That's right.
Okay, so
Technically,
that
it's a change
changes
in
what's
use.
going on.
That's the only reason they're here, is a
Right.
change in use, yes.
That's a change of use.
All right, can I get a motion then?
I'll read it. Voted the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan application for Sweet Broad Frozen Yogurt at 891 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 4, is shown on plans prepared by Merrick Brent Freeman, dated 19 August 2013. This application is approved with the following conditions: that the outside seating be limited to not more than 5 tables, and benches to be installed must leave room for the handicap access doors to operate properly.
Keep going.
This application is approved upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I would ask for an amendment that the handicapped access be unobstructed rather than the handicap door be blocked, not be blocked by benches. Because we have both tables and benches, and
All right.
also we have the ramp.
Okay, no problem.
Do we
Just
have
change the wording, that's all.
Second.
Josh, are you on that?
Oh, I'm on, yeah, that's okay.
You're the
That's-
second,
you're
so
okay?
you got a
So-
second.
I'll second it again.
What we're saying is that the benches shown on the site plan shall in no way hinder access to the handicap entrances, something to that effect, so we know what we're agreeing to. Is that okay with you, Tom?
Sure.
And that's
Yes.
okay with the second? Okay, any further discussion after we've had those two conditions in there? All right, hearing that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, you're all set. We have a mandatory referral, Town of Guilford. This is a referral for the acquisition of 4 open space parcels located in the Quanapug Hills condominium sections 1, 3, 4, and 5, and the subsequent sale of 2 of the 4 parcels. A resolution is requested. This has been a problem there for quite some time, and I think it's finally been,
Right.
many attorneys have tried, but eventually we got this worked out. George, maybe you could just give us a little background here?
Yes, there are 4 sort of orphan open space parcels that were part of the Quanapug Hills planned residential development. It was approved in 1972 and 73, and the ownership of these open space parcels has been with the original developer, Country Home Development Corporation. And they've never really got transferred to any appropriate entity to manage the open space. So they've been orphaned for many years. Taxes have not been paid for many years. I think First Selectman McElhaney's kind of taken this on as a project. He's been working on it for a couple of years with various title lawyers and other technical experts. They finally come to a resolution where the town is going to acquire these 4 parcels. They have to be open space pursuant to the original planned residential development approval. The town will continue to own 2 of them, and the plan is to sell the other 2 to the Guilford Land Conservation Trust, who also owns other open space adjacent to this property. Apparently the town can't just sell the properties to the land trust. There has to be some kind of open process of bidding, but the hope is that the land trust will end up owning them. And that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay,
regardless, they're gonna be sold as, they're gonna be put out to bid as open space. They're
Right, they can't be
deed
developed.
restricted, no developer can buy them and
Correct.
put a
That's
office
correct.
building on
They're
it.
going to be restricted. This is
Okay.
a
I'm not sure
situation
what's
where,
happening with the taxes.
well, I think what happened here was, let's be honest, it was a mix-up. The developer never deeded the properties to the condo association.
Yeah.
And they never deeded it to anybody. So it's part of the open space, and it just sort of got stuck in limbo. The developers, I'm assuming that corporation's been dissolved or not even in existence, so this seems to be the best way to get this straightened out. And with the restrictions on it,
Yes.
anybody who buys it is going to buy it with the restriction that it can't be developed. So
Right.
I think that will probably limit.
Extremely unlikely that
Most,
anyone will be
developers.
interested in buying it other than the land trust from what I've been told.
Okay,
What was the mechanism that the town used to take these properties?
This was part of the dedicated open space that was a part of the approved plan, a planned residential development special permit.
Yeah.
Part of that plan was a requirement that there be open space set aside. Some of the larger open space parcels were in fact conveyed to the association, and I think actually some of them went to the land trust back in the 70s. But for some reason, there were several orphan properties, these properties that were sort of scattered around that never got conveyed over to the association.
They were designated as open space and then they
Yes.
were never conveyed to anybody.
Correct.
yeah. I think they, probably answer your question, is they got a deed in lieu of foreclosure because we're going to foreclose on it. The town could have
Right.
foreclosed on it for taxes,
Right.
but the developer gave them a deed in lieu of, or
So
will.
the developer
yeah.
still exists to give them a deed.
Apparently, or it's successor corporation,
So,
or.
I'm not sure of that, but that sounds logical.
But in any event, they're going to be deeded to the town in lieu of foreclosure for the back taxes, and then the town will dispose of them, or keep two, and looks like try to dispose of two. That's my understanding.
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, maybe we can get a motion then.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a mandatory referral in accordance with 8-24 of the CGS, and as described in a letter from the Board of Selectmen to the Commission dated August 19th, 2013, RE acquisition of 4 open space parcels located in Quanapog Hills condominiums. This approval is based upon a finding that the acquisition is in conformity, right? In conformance with the plan of conservation and development.
Okay, do I
I
hear a
think you should
second?
add the, and subsequent sale of 2 of the 4 parcels
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This-
there in that acquisition sentence.
That's right. Acquisition of 4 open space parcels located in Quanapog Hills condominiums and subsequent sale. This approval is based upon a finding that the acquisition is in conformance. The acquisition and subsequent sale of 2 of the parcels are in conformance with the plan of conservation and development.
Okay, do I hear a second? Second. Any discussion? Pretty much discussed it unless there's any other comments anyone would like to make. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we have a couple of receives here. The first one is a CAM site plan, Takahashi and Sharp, property located 69 Andrews Road. This is a CAM site plan to put a wooden deck over an existing seawall and the adjacent upland area. We'd like to receive and set a public hearing for October 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, special permits, Robert Opal, property located 379 Old Whitman Street. This is a special permit to allow an accessory apartment in an accessory structure less than 10 years old. A variance is going to be required for this one. I'd like to receive and set a public hearing date of 9/18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Highland House, property located at 84 Boston Street, special permit to change, for change in a special permitted use, replacement of an existing shed at a museum. I'd like to receive that and set a public hearing on 9/18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have an amendment to section 273-245. We would like to add a new section G regarding farmers markets.
It's not in
I would like to receive this and set a public hearing for October 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, CAM sidewalks. The commission needs someone to organize and lead the sidewalks and type the minutes. The next one should be on 9/7/14 or after the work of for the Donald Ashford application, 118 Daniel Avenue. I assume this is because we're losing our recording secretary, Donette. Is this something the replacement can do, George, or?
Either that or Reggie or I.
Okay. Well, why don't I
We'll
suggest
find
this?
somebody.
My suggestion would be, well, we should have a chair for the sidewalk committee anyways, who's a member of the commission. Who in theory would report back.
We don't have that now.
Well, I think it was.
I was doing it, and then Grigsby
Okay.
and, has always had comments on it, but before that, David North.
It was David
did it.
North.
There's
before
David
that.
North, and then when he left, I don't think we named
Right.
anyone. So that's one thing we have to work on, but why don't I suggest that in order to not have any break in continuity here, maybe George, you and Reggie can alternate until we get the new replacement for
Yeah.
Donette up to speed.
Maybe Kevin would like to do that.
Or Kevin too, however.
Kevin's
three of
Kevin
you-
is not here. He would be a perfect
That's
candidate.
his job. He does the,
Is that a flashing sign?
he's the.
Well, I'll tell you
he
what,
does all the
we'll leave it
negotiations with
in
Goucher.
your hands to
Yeah, we'll take
square
care of
that away, and
Absolutely.
we'll get the next one scheduled, which will, at the next meeting, we'll hear about when it's going to be for this other application.
There should be a P&Z commission person appointed as chairman.
Yes, there should be, and once we get up to speed here, we've had 2 resignations, we'll get that taken care of as well. That's my responsibility, so we'll find someone we'll elect somebody to do that.
We have a new member there.
Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
should, maybe it should be the newest guy.
How would
Or the
how
guy
would you
most
like
recently
to
married.
pick that
Put
up,
on,
Josh?
put on the spot.
I don't want
That sounds exciting.
Corner
The
you
suit
in.
won't work on the walk.
It's actually pretty interesting, some of the locations you see, but they tend to be down at the shore front. There's some really beautiful home locations.
On Saturday morning.
That's sort of a.
What a wish, wow.
Right? What a
Slow down.
sales
This is-
pitch.
I've never seen anything like this.
Well, we'll talk
The
about
other
it.
half.
In any event,
1%.
moving right along, the planning committee next meeting is 9/17, the selectmen's meeting room. The zoning committee, just lost our chairperson to that, it's on 9/9 in the town hall south, so we're going to need to look at, George, well, I'll give you a call tomorrow so we can take a look at who's left on both of these and see if we can make sure we have all of the members here assigned to one or the other. Okay, we've got an approval of the minutes, 8/7/13, those should have been distributed, so are there any updates, changes, qualifications, et cetera? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote to accept these minutes. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or any updates? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I abstain.
I abstain.
All right, then the rest of us are for it. Okay, having no further business, I'll call for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Just to note that on the back of this agenda, there's a calendar. It's supposed to be for the remainder of 13, and this does not show.
Where do you have that?
It's right here on the back.
The RTC?
Mine's blank also.
Mine's
Mine's
blank.
blank.
You got a special one.
We got a special one. Those
I've got 2 copies of it, so, and there's the front page. There's the second page.
No,
Oh, that's
well,
on
we
our
don't have
agenda.
it, but it's
Can I see it, Tom? What have you got?
it's not applicable to us because those aren't
On
the
the back
days
of the
meetings
first page
anyways.
of the agenda.
So somebody else has something or another copied on the back of this, and somebody else something.
Oh, well,
But it does say that there's no September, there's no meeting, the first meeting of September.
well, but
on that
that's,
list.
yeah, but that's
That's
not
not
us, though.
Tom,
So-
move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right, do I hear a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.